Well, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now, as
I'm
for
sorry,
this
guys.
debate,
We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time.
In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you-know-who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the moderators are probably biased and they're prejudiced against me.
Divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world. We have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and all of this other BS, quite.
Karoline Leavitt walked onto the set with the kind of calm confidence that only came from knowing exactly what was about to unfold. The atmosphere was tense as she sat down across from Whoopi Goldberg and the rest of The View's hosts. But Leavitt wasn't intimidated. She had been planning this moment for weeks. It was her turn to face the woman who had spent years pushing a progressive narrative on national TV, often at the expense of factual discourse, and she wasn't going to let this opportunity slip away. Whoopi's icy stare met hers as the cameras began rolling. The show's typical chatter filled the air, but Caroline could feel the pressure mounting. Whoopi, the self-proclaimed queen of the table, had made a career out of dominating conversations. But today, it would be different. Leavitt had been invited to The View to discuss the latest political hot topic, one that had created a massive divide across the country. But Caroline wasn't interested in simply discussing it. She wasn't here to play nice or give a canned response. She had come with a point to make, and she was going to make it loud. Whoopi opened with her usual theatrical flair. Caroline, it's great to have you here, but I have to ask, what's your take on the idea that conservative views are just out of touch with the modern world? That maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop clinging to outdated ideas? Leavitt's smile didn't falter. She leaned forward, eyes locked on Whoopi with a sharpness that could cut through glass. Well, Whoopi, it's funny you should ask, Caroline began, her voice smooth but with a tinge of playfulness. Because, I've been thinking about it, and it seems to me that maybe it's your views that are a bit out of touch with reality. You keep talking about how outdated conservative ideas are, but here's the thing. It's your progressive ideas that are crumbling under the weight of common sense. A murmur ran through the studio audience as the rest of the panel looked at Caroline, a mix of curiosity and concern. Whoopi's expression faltered for just a moment. This wasn't the response she'd been expecting. But Whoopi, never one to back down from a challenge, scoffed and fired back. Oh, please. You conservatives are always clutching your pearls about tradition. But let's be honest, this country needs change. The people are ready for it, Caroline. It's time to move forward, not backward. Caroline's eyes sparkled with mischief as she leaned back in her chair. Right. Forward. Like forward to the world where cancel culture is the norm, where people get fired for expressing a different opinion, and where basic common sense is considered controversial? She paused for effect, then added, Whoopi, maybe that's the change you're looking for. but I think I'll stick with something a little more grounded in reality.
Well, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Right.
That's what you hear.
Yeah.
When they don't have anything to hold you with, nothing to make you think about what they have to say, they talk at you, not to you. And that's what she was doing. And she was doing it, and it's not new.
No.
But everybody's hip to you all now.
Yeah.
And we are anticipating that you are not prepared. Because you keep saying you going and you preparing when you're on the trail.
Live on this program yesterday, Joy Behar stirring the pot of controversy after saying this about Karoline.
She's probably been put in there because according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Do you want to take this?
So you cannot be attractive and smart? I will try to give Joy the benefit of, oh, thank you. I try to give Joy the benefit of the doubt that she didn't see that briefing. Because if you saw that yesterday on numerous topics, no big binder, I think she might have had a different impression of this young woman who held her own.
You would have to give her the benefit of the doubt that she did absolutely no research or reading about anything dealing with Karoline Leavitt before she made that remark. Because Karoline Leavitt worked, she went to St. Anselm College, she worked for WMUR. She lost by 8 or 9 points, but she still put on a good campaign. Then she was the press secretary for the Trump campaign, going on TV literally every day.
Well, heavily pregnant and a new mom.
Pregnant. Yeah, she's a new mother. And then she goes out yesterday and gives and this, again, this is speaking very objectively, because I've watched every press secretary since going back to Marlon Fitzwater. Yeah, I'm that old. And she went out there for her very first briefing at the age of 27 years old, the youngest press secretary ever, and did a terrific job.
Yeah. I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our...
The room fell silent for a moment. Whoopi blinked, clearly thrown off, but she quickly recovered, trying to maintain her composure. Oh, now we're talking about cancel culture? Please. You conservatives are just mad because you can't say whatever you want without consequences. Karoline chuckled, shaking her head. No, Whoopi. What I'm mad about is that people like you are turning basic decency into a political weapon. You want to lecture the rest of us about moving forward, but every time you talk about progress, it sounds more like, let's erase history and rewrite everything to fit our narrative. A few gasps rippled through the audience as the tension in the studio escalated. Whoopi, visibly rattled now, leaned in, her voice rising. You're out here pretending like your traditional values are some kind of moral high ground, but all I hear is fear of change, fear of progress. Karoline grinned, this time leaning forward just a bit more, her tone lighter but no less cutting. Fear of progress? Whoopi, I don't fear progress. I fear a world where everything we've built in this country, the values of free speech, personal responsibility, and the ability to disagree without losing your job gets tossed out in favor of a utopia that doesn't actually exist. She paused, letting her words hang in the air like a challenge. The other hosts sat frozen, unsure of how to react. Karoline, however, was just getting started. She glanced around the table, her eyes glinting with humor. You see, the problem with your version of progress is that it's based on a fairy tale, she continued. A fairy tale where people get to live in a world free from hard truths. A world where no one's feelings ever get hurt, and everyone agrees. But here's the reality. The real world doesn't work that way. You can't just wish away disagreement. You can't force people to think the same. And guess what? That's not oppression, that's called living in a democracy. Whoopi opened her mouth to respond, but Karoline wasn't done. She raised her hand, signaling for the floor once more.